I thought my mom's 60th birthday would be another painful family obligation, but when she called my kids a disgrace right to their faces, something in me broke, not with anger, but with a quiet, dangerous clarity. We walked out, and I cut off the secret money I'd been funneling to save their failing family business for years. What did they do when they found out I owned it all? I'd been dreading my mom's 60th birthday for weeks, not because I didn't care, but because I knew how it would go. I told Rachel, my wife, we should skip it, maybe just send flowers and a card. She looked at me like I was giving up. She still believed in family redemption. I guess I did too, somewhere deep down, but it was buried under years of being treated like an outsider in my own bloodline. We arrived at my mother's house just after 3 o'clock. The sky was that dull gray that makes everything feel heavier. Ava had fallen asleep in the back seat, her tablet still glowing. Josh was whining about being hungry. Rachel leaned over and asked if I was okay. I lied. I carried the presents in, nothing flashy, just thoughtful, a custom mug with the grandkids' photos, a handmade blanket Rachel spent 2 weeks knitting, and a book my mom used to read to us as kids. I had this faint, stupid hope she'd smile, maybe even thank me. The moment we stepped into the living room, it vanished. You brought your disgrace again, my mom said, her voice sharp and cold, like everything I did was a personal inconvenience. Ava looked up at me, confused. Josh stayed close to Rachel, silent. My brother, David, let out an obnoxious laugh from the couch, where he was half reclined like a king in sweatpants. At least tell them not to touch anything, he added, a curl of amusement at the corner of his mouth. Then Aunt Celia, always my mother's loyal shadow, tossed a napkin at Ava like she was shooing a pet. She'll get the furniture dirty, she said. No one flinched. To them, it was just another episode of the family hierarchy. I was the one who left, the one who didn't beg for approval, the one who didn't bow. For that, they never forgave me. I stood there, staring at them, so proud, so smug, like they were doing the world a favor by existing. Something snapped, not with rage or tears, but with clarity. I didn't make a scene. I didn't raise my voice. I just said to my kids, let's find somewhere else to warm up. Ava took my hand without hesitation. Josh followed, looking back once. Rachel didn't ask what I was doing, she knew. We walked out together. No one tried to stop us. That night, we booked a cozy hotel suite near the edge of town. The kids took turns picking movies. We ordered greasy burgers and fries, and for the first time that day, we laughed. I didn't hear from any of them all week, until Friday. That's when they found out, and everything changed. Calls came in back to back, first my mother, then David, then Celia, all suddenly remembering how to use a phone. Emails followed, even from my cousin Lauren, pretending she'd just missed us at the party. They acted confused, concerned, like they didn't understand why I was upset. But I knew what it was about. They'd discovered the truth, and now they were terrified. The truth wasn't some buried scandal. It was something they'd pretended didn't exist, though it had been right in front of them for years. I was the one keeping the family business from falling apart, quietly, without applause, without a thank you. My name didn't appear on the annual reports, but I was the reason the lights stayed on and the checks didn't bounce. 8 years ago, they were drowning. My mother had no idea how to manage the company after Dad passed. David had the title of managing director but spent his time golfing and posting inspirational quotes online. Aunt Celia was supposed to handle outreach and PR, but her networking was sipping white wine and name-dropping people she met once at a fundraiser. They didn't notice the business bleeding out until Uncle Ray, a silent partner, called me one night. He laid out the numbers. I didn't owe them anything, but I knew if the company collapsed, the employees would be collateral damage. So I stepped in. I created a holding company in Oregon, rerouted the financing structure, and issued low-interest loans to keep the business afloat. Eventually, I ended up with 63% control on paper. My mother still ran the company, David still walked around like a king, Celia still bragged about the family legacy, but none of them asked where the stability came from. They assumed the universe remembered they were special. I let them believe it. Until the birthday. I didn't throw it in their faces when they insulted my kids. I just walked out. But Uncle Ray must have decided enough was enough. I'm almost certain he told them, not just that I'd saved them, but that I owned the majority stake. Then came the calls. I ignored the first few, then turned off my phone. Rachel showed me the group messages they sent her, fake concern and guilt-coded manipulation. We didn't mean it that way. Don't let a misunderstanding tear us apart. She's just upset, you know how your mother is. Not once did they say sorry. They weren't trying to fix anything, they were scared. I had something they wanted, something they needed, money. They were planning a massive Europe trip, a pretentious, photo-op vacation they used to mock people for. 2 weeks on the Rhine River, luxury cruise cabins, private chefs, shopping in Paris, castles in Germany. They'd been bragging for months, even made matching t-shirts for the airport. It unraveled in 3 days. I paused the automated funding and sent one email to the finance manager. We'd be reviewing current allocations within 48 hours. The travel agency canceled their itinerary. I didn't flinch. Lauren called to catch up, mentioning how the travel funds were suddenly unavailable. She was fishing. I didn't bite. By Sunday, the nicety stopped. David sent a message loaded with cheap legal threats and passive-aggressive barbs, even copying a fake attorney's name. Celia left a 2-minute voicemail, crying about how I was destroying everything our family built. My mother sent a photo of a crumpled letter I wrote her when I was 13, captioned, "Before you turned cold." Rachel saw it all, looked at me, and said, "I think it's time they felt what it's like to lose something." We weren't just defending ourselves anymore, we were ending the game. It was never supposed to go this far. When we walked out of that party, I just wanted to protect my kids. But they wouldn't let it go. My mother, David, Celia, they kept coming, like I'd stolen something when I'd only stopped giving. I called Uncle Ray and the company's CFO, Donna, and asked for a full review. We met in my office, not a conference room, my office, because I wasn't pretending to be an outside investor anymore. I asked for every financial detail from the last 12 months, payroll, vendor contracts, expansion plans, marketing expenses. There it was in black and white, inflated spending, vanity hires, consultant fees that led nowhere. They were draining the company like it was their private trust fund. Without my capital, they wouldn't last through fall. I told Ray I was taking full control. He didn't argue, he looked relieved. Donna nodded. We'd all watched them make a mess while pretending they were building a legacy. That illusion was done. The next day, I drafted an internal memo and a formal notice for the executive team, no emotion, no finger pointing, just a shift in structure. I also sent an email to my mother, David, and Celia. Subject line, transition notice. I will no longer be financing the current leadership structure of the company. As the majority stakeholder, I am assuming executive oversight, effective immediately. Any decisions moving forward will be approved through the new governance model. Please direct all communications to legal. Do not contact me or my family again. Less than 20 minutes later, my phone lit up. David texted first, "This is war." Celia left a voicemail full of dramatic gasps and half-cried phrases about what your father would have wanted. My mother sent one line, "You've killed your family." They didn't care about the business, they cared about being seen as powerful, important, untouchable. Now, that was gone. But they weren't going to accept it. That night, we started seeing strange cars parked outside our house. A neighbor said someone had been asking about our schedules. Rachel got followed home twice. At Ava's school, a woman claiming to be a family friend tried to pick her up early, giving a fake name. The office recognized her from pictures I'd shown them a week earlier. Rachel said it had to stop, not with polite boundaries or legal notices, but with a fire they'd never forget. She had a plan. At first, I thought she was joking, too outrageous, too public, too irreversible. But she looked at me and said, "They want drama? Let's give them a front row seat." We talked for hours, weighing the risks, what we'd lose, what we'd gain. Then she did it. The next morning, Rachel walked into their favorite country club, where my mother and Celia hosted their ridiculous charity brunches. She made sure everyone heard her. What she revealed was devastating, not just words, but evidence, documents, photos, bank statements. Every dirty secret they thought no one knew. By the time she left, half the room was silent, the rest whispering. Rachel didn't look back. The silence afterward wasn't peaceful, it was eerie, like the air before a storm. For 3 days, no calls, no texts, no cars outside our house. I knew it wasn't over. People like my mother don't disappear, they retreat, reload, and come back worse. But this time, they had no ammo. Rachel had burned every bridge. What she revealed wasn't just embarrassing, it was financial and legal suicide. She'd been collecting records for a year, mostly out of habit, receipts from company dinners David expensed for personal trips, fraudulent vendor contracts funneling money into a consulting firm Celia set up in her neighbor's name. Rachel flagged it all, saved it in a folder labeled "In Case of Family." She printed copies, brought them to the club, and laid them out mid-brunch, right in front of Celia and 2 board members who were also investors. She spoke calmly, directly, no shouting. She didn't need to. By the time she walked out, they were radioactive. Uncle Ray told me the aftermath. 2 board members pulled their investment the next day. David claimed it was slander, but Rachel emailed the originals to the board. Celia's consulting gig got flagged for tax fraud. My mother tried to hold a family meeting, no one showed up. Even Lauren stopped replying to her texts. They were untouchable for years. Now, no one would touch them. That might have been the end, but they tried one last card. Ava got a birthday card in the mail, no return shortest address, just love, Grandma. Inside was a photo of her and my mom from 3 years ago and a note, "Don't let grown-ups poison your heart. You'll always be mine." They emailed Rachel's store under fake names, leaving 1-star reviews with vague threats. Someone tried to create a fake Instagram account in Josh's name, following his friends. They didn't want reconciliation, they wanted control. When they couldn't get it, they tried chaos. That's when I made the final decision. I sent a legal notice through our attorney, a cease and desist to every one of them, outlining harassment, defamation, and third-party intimidation. We attached screenshots, footage, timestamps, everything. But more importantly, we went public. Our attorney sent Rachel's records, the expense fraud, the school incident, to the company board, the local small business association, and a few investors who'd backed out. Not to ruin them, but to ensure no one could be fooled again. After that, they vanished for real. Ava never opened another letter from them. She asked me once, do I have to love them just because they're family? I told her no, and I meant it. The house felt different after the dust settled, no more calls, knocks, or cars pretending to be lost. It wasn't perfect or peaceful, but it was ours. It took a year of swallowing insults, letting them twist memories into guilt, mistakes into leverage. Now that it was over, the kids were calmer. Rachel slept through the night. Ava held herself differently around strangers, more open, more trusting. She used to come back from my mother's house quiet for days, like she'd learned to make herself smaller. Not anymore. We still saw some family, not the loud, proud ones, but the quiet ones. Uncle Ray came over for dinner every few weeks, fixing things around the house like it was his apology for staying silent too long. Aunt Deb, not Celia, the other one, baked pies and dropped them off with a smile and a nod. They supported us quietly but completely. The business didn't just survive, it got stronger. I restructured half the leadership team, slashed useless contracts, and got rid of David's made-up executive assistant, who was just his high school friend cashing a paycheck. Investors returned. We refocused, and within 6 months, we landed 2 major accounts we'd been chasing for years. Funny what happens when you remove people who think the world owes them something. Rachel never said, I told you so, but I could tell she felt the shift. We stopped waking up with knots in our stomachs, wondering what they'd do next. We stopped triple-checking the locks. The air in our home changed, lighter, real. The kids laughed louder. Ava started drawing again. Josh joined soccer. Rachel's store grew, even got written up in a local magazine. And through it all, they stayed gone, not because they chose to, but because we didn't leave the door open anymore. I heard small things. David's consulting startup tanked in 3 months, he blamed cancel culture. Celia moved to Arizona, tried getting on an HOA board, and got voted out after 1 meeting. I smiled when I heard that. My mother? Someone forwarded a photo of her at a church bake sale, surrounded by untouched casseroles and empty chairs, still telling anyone who'd listen that her son betrayed the family, that Rachel manipulated me. No one was listening anymore, not the second cousins, not the family friends who used to play neutral. The most important moment came from Ava. A school counselor called us in. My mother had sent a handwritten letter to the school, folded in a birthday card. They flagged it and handed it over unopened. Ava knew about it. The counselor asked if she wanted to read it. She shook her head. I don't need to read it. I already know who they are. She asked if we'd ever speak to them again. I told her the truth, no. Not out of hate or revenge, but because some people can't be fixed. They don't want peace, they want control. And when they can't get it, they burn everything down. We didn't escape them, we walked away, knowing they'd chase us. Then we made sure they'd never be able to again. We didn't lie, cheat, or scream. We just told the truth, loudly, publicly. When they couldn't twist it anymore, they vanished. Now our holidays are quiet but full. Rachel and I talk like we did when we first met, about books, trips we want to take, where to hang Ava's new art. Sometimes I think about my father, what he'd say if he saw how far things went, what he'd think of me taking the company from the woman he married. Then I remember the way he looked at me the day I left home. He didn't say it, but I saw it in his eyes, he knew who she was long before I did. I think he'd be proud. It happened on a Tuesday. Ordinary weather, quiet morning. Rachel was sorting mail, bills, a catalog, 2 birthday party invitations for Josh, when she held something up. You recognize this handwriting? I did. It was my father's neat, all capital letters, like he measured each stroke. Except my father had been dead for 11 years. The envelope was addressed to me, no return address. Inside was a single sheet, folded in thirds, no greeting, no date, just 1 sentence, typed on an old machine, the ink slightly faded. If they ever try to take more than they give, remember who I left it to. I turned the envelope over, searching for a clue. Nothing, no markings, no scent, no logo. But I knew his words, his rhythm. It was him. Rachel looked at me. Do you think he knew this would happen? I didn't answer. That night, I pulled out the old lockbox from the closet. Inside were birth certificates, property deeds, business contracts. At the bottom was a manila folder I hadn't touched since the funeral, my father's will. I flipped to the last page, to a handwritten note in the margins I'd skimmed years ago. This time, I read it slowly. John, if things ever get ugly, if they ever try to twist what we built, this will protect you. But only if you walk away when it's time. I'd walked away. Now I was wondering what he meant by protect you. Next to the note was a number, an account number, not one I recognized, not tied to any bank I dealt with. I haven't told Rachel yet. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe nothing. Or maybe this story isn't over, not just yet.